All right, cool. Well, listen, we made such great progress last week. I'm anxious to knock it out again this time, or 2 weeks ago. I'm anxious to knock it out again today. So if we can, we'll jump on it. But real quick, I do want to give everyone just a chance to transform their minds from where they were rushing in here and traffic and the crazy day and all that, and just to get reacquainted a little bit with everyone. So we'll just do a real easy icebreaker this time. And why don't we just say, what is your favorite thing about summer? It certainly feels like summer outside today, right? I mean, it is hot out there. So, Wayne, what's your favorite thing about summer?
My family, we love going to the beach. We go probably 3 or 4 times during the summer. Just got back on Monday, so we love the beach.
Time off, PTO, vacation, just going somewhere and looking forward to it.
More daylight.
That's a real good one.
I will second that one.
Yes.
What I call the suburban biathlon, which is the pool in the lake.
Yeah.
I wish I had that. That's mine. I love working less in the summers. It's a lighter time for me, and I just enjoy the heck out of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was gonna say less traffic, but today is kind of counter. A little accident on 77 back things up, but school's out, less traffic. That
Yeah,
kind of thing.
that does happen too, for sure. Cool. Yeah, I would say for me too, I just love swimming and look forward to getting back in the pool in the warm weather. The heat doesn't really bother me that much. So, kind of like it in a strange way. But, cool. All right, so it looks like we're still waiting on a couple people. Did we hear about it?
How did you not get to
Tell me
speak?
by chance, or are they just maybe just a few minutes late getting here?
It could be traffic. We didn't hear from anybody.
Yeah, West Catawba was really knotted up.
Is it? So I think they're probably sitting in traffic. So we're going to finish we finished the northwest quadrant last week. You know, we're going to finish the quadrant right next to it, right? The southwest quadrant today. So, you know, we'll go ahead and break. Now, I know maybe before we break, since, you know, Wayne, you'll have everyone's attention at one time. I might save you from having to say everything twice. But if you want to give a quick overview of any planned development and planned roads in the new development and planned greenway, let's hit that at a high level before we jump in, and I'll save you from having to do it.
I appreciate that, and I will also say, we sent out the draft color version of what you concluded, and we appreciate everybody's comments. And the one thing I did want to note, because Fred sent out one to everybody, what about the green areas? Some of that stuff we'll cover in text and code. For instance, we'll decide with the board what the buffers will be, if they'll be 50, 100, whatever. And then the greenways and all those environmental areas will be preserved through code codification as well. So while those didn't show up on the map, they are there. That's in your written comments. So don't think that disappeared.
How does that work with, like, what are the current codes for buffers, so that we know that? Because, I mean, we put a lot of POS in, and the answer was, this is already covered in the requirements for environmental this and that, but we don't know what those are.
I'll ask the chairman, if you want me to do that today or in the future, I'll be glad to go over things like what the buffers are and all that. I'll follow your.
I would say, let's keep making good notes of what we want them to be.
But
And
that
not-
would
and
be a
not let it-
question, so then, when we put it down that we wanted it that way, but then the answer was, well, it'll be in the notes, but we're not gonna put it that way.
Well, I am assuming that when you close this out, you'll go back and we'll look at those notes and decide which notes and how you want to recommend those to the board. And I'm assuming we'll have a conversation, because like buffers, they won't just apply in the Northwest, they'll apply all over town.
Totally.
So at the end, I will give you a presentation. Here's what the buffer ordinance is now. There's 3 options, 50, 30, and 10, or something to that effect. And you might want them to be 50, 100, and 150. And so we'll discuss that. We'll discuss the positive impacts of having green space, the negative impacts that people are going to yell and scream that the property is highly valuable and I can't give up that green space, and what you'll get on both sides, and let you come up with what you want your recommendation to be.
Wayne, can we create a new buffer that be applied in a certain situation?
You certainly can.
Okay. So what I like us to do is, I want to capture y'all's ideas, and I want to present them, whether it's in the form of land use or in a change to buffer. So it might not make sense for a certain buffer, for example, to be the buffer all over town, but it might make sense in a certain type of area that we've identified. So I would say maybe, I'm glad you brought it up, we can go back, when we get to our boards, let's document those types of buffers and what's unique about that area where we wanted to capture those buffers. And let's make that a part of what we're doing with this group, right? I'll give you an example besides what we've seen up there, because I've been struggling with this a little bit myself. But if you think about the way oh geez, what's it called? What's the big park right on Catawba Avenue with the neighborhood? Robbins Park. Think about the fence, right, that goes along in the berm, the fence in the berm that goes along Robbins Park on the road, right? Like, that looks kind of good, right? So, would it be possible to have that type of requirement for buffer, if we like that buffer, for example? It wouldn't make sense to apply that everywhere, but it might make sense to have that applied down, like what you can see there, down Catawba Avenue, right? On the other side, maybe to give some separation between the, walkway and the road, or something, for example. I don't want to lose those ideas that you have, and I don't want to give them up to say, well, it's in a buffer, and the buffers will be the buffers. Let's capture that, and let's make that a part of this.
And every note that you make, we're writing down, and we're keeping, Becky and I are keeping that. So when we get to the end, you'll go back, you'll see everything you've said. We'll have that.
So much, and I've heard Susan say, I've heard it catch on with other people in the groups, and a lot of people have really gravitated to some of the ideas of walkability, right? Like, that's a really big part of this, and if buffers and walkability come into play together at some point, to make it, safer or more appealing or something of that nature, then let's capture that. And that's not always going to be the case. Sometimes it's just going to be having facilities near each other, accessible, and the right types of land use and development to enable that. But in other times, it might literally be something like this.
I may have missed this from last time, but I thought we had said that along 77 to Westmoreland, that we were gonna have some of that as green space. Is that what you're talking about with the
Yes.
buffers? Okay,
Yes.
because I saw orange, and I couldn't really figure out what orange was. And then-
That's what raised my question when I responded right away, because I'm retentive like that, and
I know
if
you
I
like
specifically
cows.
put a color there and I see something, I was like, wait, really?
Yeah,
we
and
did
what
say
we
that.
tried to do is we use some of your colors where you wanted green space. It doesn't apply to the whole property. We don't want the whole property as a park, but you might want the use, but you want a significant green buffer there, or it's a green space there. And that's, if you codify that, and then, so whoever develops there knows that, hey, I can develop this business, but 50, 100, or 150 feet out here, I've got to plant these trees, and I've got to do a series of evergreens, I've got to do a series of, deciduous and shrubs, the whole 9 yards. I've got to make this look like forest.
Natural.
What is
Yep.
orange?
Orange is medium density residential.
Medium density.
Well, let me look and see what your.
Which orange are you talking about?
We have multiple colors.
Let me look in your book.
Are
and
the
see
new
what orange
colors
is.
to the right, the big ones?
Yes.
Okay.
I need to see exactly what's in your
I
book.
see an orange dot.
Like which area?
And there is a mix.
Well, it's
not
yeah,
Multifamily.
it's either multifamily or small lot residential.
Well, I apologize. We use different colors on this because the way our mapping program works. But the orange is supposed to be what you listed as, let me find your.
So the small lot residential?
Yeah, the small lot residential. That's what y'all are talking about.
The problem in that bottom quarter is there's apartments in there.
That's true.
Yeah, I think even the houses are not, well,
We're on like 1/8 of an acre.
Yeah.
they're tight.
Yeah. Alley lots on a lot.
Okay. Is that considered small lot residential?
Actually, that's what we consider it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that makes sense then. Cool.
It's just the apartments in there that would push it towards a multifamily versus small lot.
But now remember, this
We
is
can
what
change
you
that.
prefer it to be,
Correct.
not what it is.
Correct.
So Wayne, just to clarify, the most useful way for us to capture buffers in those unique scenarios where they may not be applied everywhere, how would you recommend that we do that? Would you recommend we give it a name and then a description and where it would be applied?
Can I butt for 1 second, just to add on to what Kelly was suggesting? I think we need to think of the buffers as, we don't need as much of a buffer, just my personal, a buffer between a residential to a residential, but a residential to commercial and residential to industrial should have much bigger buffers.
It's interesting you say that, and when we actually present what we have now, it's funny, it's a little contradictory to that, because what we hear one subdivision to another subdivision is, I don't want to see my neighbor. So we actually require 50 feet between, that's 100 total, 50 on each side, because neighbors do not like neighbors. And that's what we run into.
Which is counter to the whole small
It
town
is.
feel,
But
right?
if you purchased a home that backs up to the woods, and then somebody's, third idiot son sells all of his land, and they build 400 houses,
Yep.
you purchased these nice wooded views and now have 15 apartments
Mhm.
looking up over your backyard, like that's,
Well,
you're talking about
it
property
even
owner
comes
rights,
up
like
when
that's
it's not
my
even
thing.
apartments.
That
And
happens all the
remember
time,
this.
that happens in big cities with big old.
We don't live in a
buildings.
big city, we live in a small
But you
town.
didn't buy that property, it's not yours to do anything with, you bought it knowing that it could be developed at any point, so put up some trees, I mean.
We hear this
You
every
can't
day.
over control our neighbor's
We
property.
have approved a single-family development on Washington Potts Road, and Dennis remembers this, single family next to single family. But we have people coming to the meeting saying, my children play over there.
Right.
I don't want those trees to be gone. And I so badly wanted to say, well, you should have bought it. And we even required a 50-foot buffer, but that was not enough. They wanted hundreds of feet of buffer.
Of course.
But the family who owned it was like, well, hey, is that fair? So that's the kind of things we deal with. But when we present the buffer to you, we'll show you what we do now, single family to single family. And we even, in commercial, it's 10-10, because you don't want asphalt to asphalt. That doesn't look good. But we have minimums for commercial, industrial, and residential. And we can explain all that to you, and then if you want to tell us about the special ones you want, we can include those, or we can change the ones we have. So we'll go through all that.
Okay, let's do this, we'll break in our grooves. Let's go ahead and capture those ideas, just so we don't lose them, right? What we had and what was important, and where it was, and what we were thinking, right? If we finish early today, let's have a goal of finishing at 5:30, that's 45 minutes. If we finish at 5:30, then we can spend the rest of the time, maybe Wayne can then present what we currently have
Okay.
for buffers. Is that a worthy pursuit? And if not, we'll just keep
Schedule,
plowing,
yeah.
and then we'll schedule some time on that. And maybe, a lot of times when we get together as a group, the benefit of being together as a group is we can only do what we can do as a group.
Sure.
So it might be possible for Wayne, if we can't do it today, to send it out in advance, and then we can come together and maybe have some discussion on it,
Yeah.
but we won't use the time for us together to focus on that unless we have specific questions. Is that a fair way to approach that, so we get that information? And then I think the buffers are a big part of what we're doing here, so let's capture some notes on that if we didn't have them before.
And we do.
Yeah, okay, good.
Well, I'll jump into what Michael asked me, and I'm gonna use this one over here, that's a
Yep.
little bit easier for everybody to look at. And we'll break this down in a couple of segments like we did the north section. This is the southwest quadrant. This is basically West Catawba. Here's Robbins Park. This is all green because this is one of our largest parks that we lease from the county, the Robbins Park. And this is Westmoreland Athletic Complex, a lot of trails, fishing pond in here. This is just one of our biggest park assets, and it's a great asset. So that's why you have this big green area. We also have West Catawba, which will be widened. That's why it's in orange. It's to go from the current 2-lane to a 4-lane with a 23-foot wide divided with a median in the middle with trees and shrubbery. Ava asked about that last time. This is the north. This orange line is the North Cross Drive Extension Road project. We've worked with the county to try to keep the park feel through here, but it's to open up this. This is business campus currently, and we'll talk to you about what you'd like to see. Our thing is we don't want this to be residential. We've never, in fact, we zoned it business campus. The family fights us on that year after year after year because they could easily sell it for residential. But we keep it at business campus and we will not change, we have not changed it. So we're building this road through here. This is a one subdivision that you can only access from Huntersville, but they are Cornelius residents. I go out there to say hello to them at least twice a year and let them know that we do care about you and we do know you're there.
Is that Sherwood?
Sherwood Forest,
Oh,
yes.
I did not know it was Cornelius.
That's where Robin and his merry men live.
That's right.
Now, this is, these subdivision, remind me, Becky, what is this?
Burkeville.
Burkdale.
Grains of Burkdale.
Half in Cornelius, half in Huntersville. A lot of people take shortcuts through here, through Burkdale to get down to here. This is Kenton Place. This was meant to be Burkdale when it started. Then when Burkdale was actually constructed, this kind of went by the wayside and it's become a different entity. Started with a theater. Theater became Elevation Church. People are kind of okay with that. Elevation provides some, their members go to Galway Hooker. Galway Hooker says they're big drinkers and they eat a lot of food. They like them. I didn't know that. Also, Lake Norman Baptist is down here. That's actually Huntersville. What's the kid place? The
Urban Park.
Yeah.
Urban
and
Park.
Urban Park, that's Cornelius. Now, also, a lot of people don't know that the north side of 73 down to Blythe Landing, that's Cornelius as well. Blythe Landing is in Cornelius, and these subdivisions are Cornelius. The Raymond James Investment, now they thought they were in Huntersville. When they did their ribbon cutting, they invited the mayor of Huntersville. They figured out 30 minutes beforehand that they were in Cornelius, so they invited our folks. But that is Cornelius. So that's kind of the high vision of what's out here. We do have some opportunities through here for waterfront mixed use. Bluff Point, you'll see there's some vacant properties here. They've talked to us about doing some things. Port City Club, which is right up here, it could also be something, they've talked about something different. So you have opportunities for waterfront mixed use.
Wait, where was that hotel that was gonna go in at one point?
Dr. Nara's property, that is not suited for a hotel. That's why I didn't go there. Dr. Nara, that's a nice piece of property. It touches the lake about this much, but it widened, it does touch the lake. Got water table problems. It will be something nice on the lake, but it's not suited for a hotel at 6 and 7 stories. Dr. Nara's a neurosurgeon. A lot of doctors think they know everything about real estate, so he tried to do it himself. Wouldn't listen to his real estate folks. It's a nice prime piece of property. Hotel, I don't know. I don't think so, but we probably need to look at it as something different. So
What's going on there now?
nothing.
I thought they
Oh,
were
he's
building-
got a house there.
I thought they were building over there, across from Kenton.
Now,
Those are
that,
the
That's
townhomes.
those are townhomes.
Oh,
those
yeah.
are townhomes right up here that are Lennar.
Okay.
What is
David
the,
Wheatley.
David Wheatley, or you're right, David Wheatley.
what is the zoning for that two-story building with, like, not Carefree, but Freedom Boat Club? What is that zone? It's on the water.
Oh, Sidmar's Water Street,
Water Street.
Oh, that is,
3-story office.
I'd have to go back and look at the
Office and
zoning.
marina.
It's a grandfather's building.
I just didn't know what the zoning was, because whatever that zoning is, we could potentially leverage that.
Well, the current land use plan has it as waterfront mixed use. So we want to encourage, I mean, that's a prime area that we could use. It's got a boardwalk. There's a lot of folks talk to us about that. Sid and his partners have talked about that. A lot of ideas out there, but nothing's come to fruition here. But that's a prime location for some kind of mixed use on the waterfront, and give folks access.
The other side of the
Across
water
the
from
park.
Bitter Point.
Remember the stand-up paddleboard places too?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what we were
Yeah,
talking.
it's the one we were looking at last
Right
time.
next to Flow.
Yeah.
So that's the highlights of this quadrant. What we thought you could divide it up similar to the other one is, you know, This kind of breaks off into its own section. That probably won't take you any time, but that's a section. This section of West Catawba from 73 to Westmoreland, and this frontage, and then this area along North Cross Drive extension. So really 3 areas that we would ask you to look at here. If you want to include this with this, that's fine.
We have the same restrictions as we did with the other 3 fingers, whereas the waterfront type things are
No.
watershed restricted.
Well, there are some watershed restrictions, but you don't have the same general residential in this area. So I'm not going to tell you you have any restrictions in this
Okay.
area. I mean, it is watershed, but you don't have the same restrictions.
Because of conversion.
Did the neurosurgeon look into an event and meeting center instead of a total hotel?
He was convinced that he was going to sell to a hotel chain,
Okay,
and that's what he was trying to do with his own.
okay.
And he had a unique architect from Jamaica, and they had talked to all the hotel chains. They weren't using a real estate professional. That was their first mistake. They were trying to draw it themselves. That's their second mistake. I tell everybody, please hire professionals that know what they're doing. So that was their, and now last I heard, he had gone into assisted living. His children just waited.
All right, so if it's all right with everyone, I'd like to take Wayne on his suggestion that maybe we merge these 2.
Okay?
And let's go after this section as one piece.
So the west side of Catawba all the way
Yeah,
up?
all the way down Catawba, down 73, right, to here.
And really, I don't mind if you do this
Yep.
frontage on this side as well. So West Catawba from Westmoreland all the way down to Blythe.
Yeah. So we'll hit this first, report out to each other at, say, quarter after and see how we're doing. If it's not enough time, we just jump back in and finish it up. Is that good with everybody? Cool, all right.
Becky, we move that chart so we can get in there.
I'm waiting for people to,
Was Blythe over Huntersville?
because I
No,
don't want
ma'am,
to
it's
trip it
always
over.
been
When I
Cornelius.
lived
Thanks.
in Huntersville, they said it was Huntersville.
They would love to have it.
You know
It's
what,
ours.
even when I first moved here, Vineyard Point was Huntersville.
Uh-huh.
There is some people that put signs next to the Hungry Howie's for Huntersville
Yeah.
offices.
And I always laugh because there's a lot of campaign signs that get put up in there. I just always figure, well, there must be a lot of Huntersville residents that work here. But a lot of people don't know. I meet with a lot of people every day that they think they're in one town. And I'm like, well, have you ever looked at your taxes, where your payment actually goes?
All right,
Probably
Jess.
You know.
I've always been surprised, down to 21.
So I love the idea, we were
Thought
talking
that private
about
school
last
was
time
in-
about mixed waterfront. And so we could just kind of nail that down, we could
Oh,
then
115.
entire, like, what's the scope of the
Yeah,
area?
it's the last thing in Cornelius. Yeah, that's right.
Hey, Wayne, one question.
Yes, sir.
Do we have any buildable over water restrictions? So if we wanted the waterfront to be able to build out like on a pier type thing, so they can extend out over the water?
We're not allowed to do anything.
Because it's Duke, that's why I was asking.
Yeah, there's what's called this, most people know there's a 760 line. We can only regulate on our side of the 760. Everything on the other side is Duke out.
I'm game for Kelly's recommendation, if you guys are, tackle the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
That's where he was.
Did you make it bigger?
That's the only.
Which part?
Yep, this is the bigger part. This is just the number of homes here. This is that office facility.
This is all, so this next door, that's all. Right here are a bunch of lot that is set. And then a lot of this stuff is older stuff, like there's not a lot of new stuff.
So
So
this
we could
is
potentially,
neighborhood.
you know, this is where my parents live right
This is
there.
100
So, you know, these are all brand new.
So we're
$5
considering
million
all of
homes.
that.
But like a lot of this stuff, like if you could somehow
Yeah.
expand that, you know, you could get more than just a
Color is
restaurant.
That's a good idea. That's a
Well,
great
you've got
idea.
this one little lot right there.
We've been writing that.
Is that
There's nothing on there right now. Then you got the 3-story building.
Might be orange.
And then you've got,
Well-
that's all open,
So it would be residential.
all the way to the street.
But,
So plenty of parking to put.
I mean, I can't
And the nice thing is you have a lot of the residential already here to help support whatever businesses you put in here. And they already have a boardwalk that's nice to walk all
It's not
through here,
small.
right?
Wouldn't it be nice to have, like, continue the boardwalk, have a
Yeah.
restaurant or two, have a green area?
Has
and
anyone
then-
gotten
Is
in
that-
there?
I don't know that business is great, but it's
We were sitting with
value,
you.
historic value. This is where John's, they're like, it's so.
Uh-huh.
We have to have access
I've never
to
let you get
some,
in.
like, some waterfront access in Cornelius. So
This
we're gonna have to
is
pick
where-
places to make the most sense.
I don't know.
And you're right, the value of
This is
Sky,
the church.
right, the value
And I
of
always
Sky.
wonder too, like, you know, I can never
This
understand,
is,
Kings
I think,
Point, I've been going over here for 21 years,
where
it's as good as it's
they
ever been, it's still
put-
terrible, like, there's no, the store stinks, like, it's right
Yeah.
I don't see a little restaurant, it's one house,
Yep.
Yeah.
Probably make some money.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Small and large.
Let me see if I can
So,
find something for you.
So we'll mark this up. What other, this is interesting, right, that all of this coming down here, what
This is
other
not-
opportunities might be presentable?
Are these
down here?
all houses?
Yes.
along here?
Yep.
There's quite a few
This
kinds
is,
of
this is,
apartments.
like, this,
Yeah.
I just awesome.
Section.
I'll look for a house there for like 2 years before I get it.
I'd say then we can do the orange, because we, one small lot, which would be, well, no, that's two family.
So this is an earthen dam.
Put the
This is a
multi-family.
dam that whole lake, and this is all
I don't know how
housing.
you do that. Multi-family would be feet,
Tell you what, Apple Maps is your friend when you're looking.
but it doesn't include single family.
Well, if you
Yeah,
go
and
back
I'd
to
say it's
category,
probably a mix.
if y'all been real good,
Like,
it's
you know,
right
it's not
down
some
the
older stuff, it's
Just right down the
90s
street.
stuff, but not really, you know, law mansions haven't taken over. there yet.
residential. And
Still
we
some,
might
it's not.
create that. I think we have it zoning.
Yeah.
We just don't
I mean,
have
the
it.
nice thing is this has an expanse of water.
This is what I
As opposed to
Yes.
just being in
We've heard
code.
And it's much more,
There are
There's not a lot of
existing
docks.
structures here, there are existing residences.
It's like they
So
have
to then
community
do
dock
sort of
areas, but no,
This is the island.
Yes.
change
So
for
they've
that
got
type
your
of
router right
land
here.
use, I feel like.
well, the island's there.
It's
The
down
island's got
to it.
piers.
Oh,
So
they've all
could you
got-
But
take
think
this
about
piece,
that,
doesn't
it?
how that would apply.
Right,
to
just
some
talk
of
about,
the
what if you
communities
just,
and
what if it was all water, extends waterfront from here to
I
here?
mean, you do have to think.
Oh, wait,
And
put
just
the housing in there?
It's
Just encourage.
Just like it's
I
not
mean,
like
would
Wall
that
Street.
not be
Previous
fabulous
approvals were
and
6
draw
units per
people
acre.
from
So
all
the
over
folks
the
who live in
lake?
those
There
Right
could be
next to the
different,
lot.
there could be,
Yes.
it could be kid
Units per
oriented,
acre
some
for
places,
grounds.
If you're gonna see
There's
that,
your blue pen.
slip
And
and
that's the
slide.
if you've ever been to like
discussion.
Simokiwa,
Do you
Uh,
want to
Small
spot
lot.
a small lot or large
it
lot
used to be a work
residential?
arena that they've completely overhauled in the last 10 years. And it used to just be crap, like it was a fishing store and now a bad restaurant, and they've gotten all the industrial stuff out of there, and they've just made an entire commercial district, there's probably 10 restaurants, they have
What I would
bands.
say is on this west
It's a
side,
destination.
Here's an idea.
a lot of that,
We can ask
you know,
Wayne about it.
21
So
units
we
per
could
acre.
potentially
In your
put an
plan,
overlay on
that
this.
is a lot of
Like,
multifamily and small
Call it
lot.
like a waterfront
But now
district.
over in Robbins Park,
And literally
I would
just say,
call that
like,
large
encourage
lot.
it. Now, we might not do that,
That's
might
a
be
lot of
premature,
single
but maybe
family
we'll do
on
that
half an acre to an
if
acre.
you've got some action.
And that, cause those
But
houses,
that's kind of what you
Yeah,
got.
now down in,
like in this
This whole area,
area,
That
listen,
area,
this whole area, and we
those
see
are
this
gonna
maybe,
be small
maybe it will
lot
be
residential.
20 years from now.
and then.
But if there's a part we want to see developed on the water, we think this has the most potential.
That's
what
Robbins
we were.
Park.
Yeah,
Those
yeah.
are
proposing.
like-
But it's like, John, if it is
I
20
think
years
there
from
was
now,
like
though,
these
people with
inside.
mansions will come in, and then it's harder to make it happen. So,
Yeah, that's true, some of those aren't very
I
large.
mean,
Now,
it's,
what
that-
they would do,
otherwise
but
it's
if
an
someone
idea.
takes one down,
They cluster.
and rezoned it,
Right.
So
Exactly,
the property
so I
itself
think
might
the
be
zoning
200
actually
acres,
only
would
it's
have
okay.
but they only
pass
built
now.
40 units.
Everything
And there's gonna
They
be a
kept
heck
the
of a lot
majority
of
of the green.
resistance, because
And we
people
allow
are gonna
that.
make a lot more money selling.
As long as it averages out.
But,
Let's ask
That's the
about
truth.
that, right? Because that poses
If you
some,
look at it
some
today,
questions, right? Like how
we
we're,
want to go from the top, from over
If
to
you
the
look at
point.
what you can see from the road, it's pretty much two
So that's-
stories,
I mean,
some
that-
commercial,
this is
now we've got those townhouses that are.
This is
being
all
built on the curve, I
huge
guess.
houses, huge houses.
so what if we went
Kind of
from below
depends.
the
This is
bluff point down?
So you
Look,
want
Yeah,
to.
you didn't
From
hear
Rough
put any
Point down.
towers, any apartment
I
complexes.
mean, this is the area
But
that.
now
Okay,
it's
sorry,
communities,
Vineyard Point down, probably right.
There's the marina.
So Vineyard Point.
This is, that's
so
gonna be
like, I don't think in
residential,
this
but
density
where
right
you were
here.
saying there might be some.
Yeah.
where
Right, I
you
mean,
could
I think
drive
this
off of the
supports
top
that,
back
so,
into this.
you know, maybe it's mixed use waterfront.
How does it feel about that, putting something commercial and taller on the water?
hey,
I love that idea.
Yes,
I got a question for you, maybe you
we're just hearing how y'all think about
You
that.
will encourage
Well, I
people to
feel
live
like.
there.
If we have a large area that we would like to encourage, you know, we know this is a long-term game, we're not expecting some of this to happen. Some of it might, which would be
So
exciting.
personally, I feel like.
But if we
that
said, you
needs
know
to
what,
stay consistent
we could,
throughout
we would
this
like to
area.
attract waterfront development
No,
to
what we
Groove here.
said.
Oh.
You know, in the next 20 years, we'd
And
like to
I agree,
advertise
on the road.
essentially.
But
Correct.
This is
what
what we
about
want Cornelius to do.
I mean, actually towards the
How
lake.
about an
Yeah, and I
overlay
think
work,
like,
like,
to your
you know, we
point,
have
this
transit
is,
overlays, we
it's
have
like
park
marina,
district
some
overlays, you know,
however
we've
that
got
goes. And
these
so,
other
I
overlays.
think
How
that
would
there
we
is an
create,
opportunity for
what's
here
the benefit
personally
of
to,
creating
like,
an
do
overlay
some waterfront mixed
versus
use, to have some
just,
businesses there, to do
making
more,
land use designation?
restaurants,
What's the
things like
difference?
that.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
there. Yeah.
You got
the
tallies
overlays
repair,
are in our
marine
zoning.
repair.
Yeah, and that's all.
So they get
Where's
more
Point
to,
City?
that's
Well,
involved
it's
in
actually-
apartments.
Oh, it's a-
Harborside Drive.
Decorations,
No, no, he wants to
specific
redevelop.
uses, that kind of
He
thing.
likes some height.
Like some
So
height,
They
you know, he
do
won't
have
do
a
it.
waterfront mixed use
No parking.
land use category.
Well, and there's signs,
This is in
skinny
there, it has
lots
been
for
in
sale
there
right through here.
since
And that was my fear, that somebody would try to do a little, do a four-story
Yeah.
apartment building.
Other than
My
Dr. Laura.
But then it doesn't restrict anybody from just buying and building a house.
Correct.
To keep the consistency,
I
and
still
I
think
do
too,
love
you
like
want some sort of
having
mixed use
something,
element,
you know,
buffer
the
between
mixed
waterfront
use,
houses and
something
some
on the
lots
water.
that you
I
can
mean,
get
obviously
enough
things
land to make
are
a mixed use.
residential
It can't support
properties,
just
but
retail.
really
I
when
mean,
you
that's,
walk
it's gonna
across,
have
they
to
are
be
bigger
mixed use.
lots, and it's just like, I
And
don't
is
know
it
that
to,
people would ever
to
sell.
get this to
But
actually come to fruition
If so,
sooner rather
that
than
would be a
later?
great
Is it too
spot
big
for-
of an area,
One
a
thing I'll
swath,
ask you to
or
keep
should
in
it be
mind,
broken into
think
like
about-
3 different
I
areas?
think height
This?
could be good on the water. It's a
This.
great attraction.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
people
And that
want
would
to
maybe
be
just
able
two.
to
Yeah.
dine,
Because here's the other thing too, because they, if
stay
that's
overnight.
development patchwork, like
If
Rescott,
we
you've
had
got
4,
13
5, 6
kinds of
stories on the
stone
water,
walls, which are like, that's
that
gonna
would be
be
a great
Yeah.
attraction
I'd be
for it.
inclined
And
to
don't think that
keep
just
some
because
symmetry there and
some of these folks down here,
And
even
then,
new
and
houses,
then
for the right dollar,
put some
they'll
constraints
sell.
right.
in there,
And
right?
they'll sell
So,
for mixed
fine,
use
this is what we're
development.
looking
We've
for,
got
but
people coming in here every day looking
okay.
at this
So-
area, looking off. of
And then that
Church
also
Road.
gives developers a chance
They got money.
to find an area that might be
And,
more
For
willing,
enough money,
you
anybody
know,
will
to
sell out.
transition,
and move
right? 'Cause we
out.
don't
You could
really
convert that
always
to
know what
mixed
that
use.
is.
And that's
We
kind of,
might think
that was, I guess,
some
where I was
places that
going
make
with that,
sense.
because there are large lots,
They
but
may
there's
find
not
something.
so many of them,
That's right.
that it would not, I mean, obviously, it
We
would
have
take a
found through
pretty penny to
individuals
get people to do
like
that,
Dr.
but
who
it,
have wanted to do
it's,
something along the lakefront. that
at least
do this
conceivable enough
very
versus something
resistant
like this.
To
Yeah, I agree.
encouraging even boardwalks.
Are we saying though, not just strictly residential high density, we're saying mixed use, maybe
Yeah.
retail restaurant on the first floor?
I personally think mixed use, waterfront mixed use,
Yeah.
is
I
all
agree,
in
I
there.
agree with
Yeah.
So just so
Consider
much,
that it would
this
be open
is
to the
Doctor's
public,
property.
like restaurants and that's.
He
So when
actually
you say
says-
mixed use, that includes public access?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Retail would want the public to come to restaurants.
So any place along the waterfront, I would think we should try for mixed use.
Yeah, because there's
Public and interest.
And I would say up until like about this point.
What's
And
the
then
zoning
if
for
you
water?
this, then residential.
Waterview is large lot residential now, but
Water Street,
on Water Street,
the building, it's his building, what is that zoning?
I have to go back and look. I actually think it's owned residential, but he's grandfathered. And the
Because he
land-
uses office and retail.
Yeah, and he's fine.
Okay,
It's
so
his
where are we
grandfather, so
now?
all that can be used as commercial. And the
It's up
land
to
use
you,
plan
up to
actually
you
says
guys.
it
What do you
should
think?
work.
What I'm hearing
He's
is,
got marina there too.
let's open it up,
All legal.
right, to mixed use, some kind of mixed use waterfront, right?
Now,
But we want
Waterview
some
is another
constraints
one. A
on
lot of those-
what it would be,
Those are nice lots,
right?
but we've been
And
approached by more than.
The places that don't make sense, that aren't gonna
I'd say
transition
4 or
to
5 of
the
those property
McMansions,
owners that
they're,
would love for Waterview to become mixed use.
so here's the question that came up.
Those are very
So
nice
we
lots.
make the
If they
change,
went to mixed use.
someone was
those
wanting
folks
to
would
change,
make
you know, they wanna buy a lot,
wouldn't.
and just replace
And
all
when you
bigger
do
house.
mixed use, you can't
What
say
new obstacle
private,
does that create for them to just put a new house
no
there?
one can come
I
in
doubt we
here
would
unless you
approve
have
it. I
member.
think
Land use
we're gonna have to
plan
approve it.
or mixed use
Nobody's come
residential,
to
they
us
wanna put a
with
single
private
family house.
on a private situation.
It
And I
does
think
not
with our goal
preclude
of
them
opening
from
it up
being
to
able to do
public,
that, because the
we
land
want it
use
to
is
be
just the
public
guiding
mixed
document.
use.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would
And I think
like to
he
think
will
that when
be-
we make our notes.
I think
Whether
to your
you
point, that, I think that was the
initiate or
reason my
resent
mindset, I was saying like, have it like these waterfront lots, just to be waterfront mixed use.
And that would make it
to about,
overly difficult
you
as
know,
well.
here, and then down to about here,
Well-
because these are the condos
Well,
and townhouses here. And then they're much smaller lots, so
But-
to try and get something built here would be
And-
much more difficult.
put
And there's not an
restrictions in
in and out really that easily. And
But
then
if you're
remember,
impacting people.
right here, you
who
can't
are
actually even take a
living
left.
there,
You have to do it right. and
Yeah.
turn.
Yeah, so I think
I think that's, I
we
mean, if
should
it's just a
keep
suggestion, right? I
this
mean, that's.
Yep.
residential
Right.
as it
We're
is.
suggesting
just
that if
because
there's a
of
place we'd like people to
infrastructure will create
look
massive issues.
for
Hey, but what's your
mixed-use
concern
waterfront development,
with it
we
being
believe this
private?
is a good place
If
to
it's
do it.
mixed use, like
Does
in
that
the
give
retail, what are you
you,
thinking
as
it could be there?
board members,
I'm
more
curious.
gravitas to, I mean, do you guys actually go out and create economic
Yeah.
opportunities and?
Yes, very membership.
The mayor might be out and looking
A
and
membership
talking,
club.
and I
There should be a lot
don't,
of
I would
ways.
only look at, I
It's
mean,
retail,
I
you
could,
wouldn't
if I
be
was
private,
talking to
it's
someone
office,
in
it
the
would be
community,
private, but
you know,
I
I
just
could,
wanted
I
to
could bring
state
it
it.
up, if there was an
so that-
opportunity, then I could
I was just
mention,
curious
hey,
what you were
are you
thinking.
aware that
Well, it happens
we're
in a lot
doing
of
this,
places.
but it's
Yeah,
not
no,
really
in communities.
part of my regular.
I guess what I'm confused about is, are we actually doing anything?
Sure.
Or are we just
Keep private.
saying, wow, this would be nice?
So are you against it or are you for it?
Let me put it this way, if we don't
Private.
change it,
against
then
it?
we're not
Private.
encouraging
I would
it.
like public.
That's
Right.
why I'm asking.
mixed
I just
And
want to make sure we're all on the
encouraging
same
it
page.
and giving
Yeah, I would like
direction
public
is huge.
Usually the only
So
prime request we
it
get.
doesn't
are
force
spot
anything,
residential.
but it encourages something. And
Well,
I think there's
like
interest, we've heard of interest in some of these places already. It just solidifies that we're on board with that
That's how
too.
they make money.
Citizens of Cornelius, we're on board with, you know, trying to get more waterfront access.
Yeah.
And,
Actually, water,
once the project comes, then it does give the board an
our
opportunity to
current
say,
land use plan says.
this is
waterfront
what's in the
issue.
land use plan.
That's it.
We're supportive of what's
So
being
it's,
presented,
it's,
as opposed to,
Marina,
because a
sit-down
decision has to be
restaurant,
made.
hotel, general
Someone's probably not
office,
gonna be
civic
happy
and institutional
at any
business,
decision that we
market
make,
park.
Absolutely.
whichever side of the fence it is. But in this case, if it's zoned that way, or on the map that way, land use plan, then we can say, this is the support we have for making our decision, we're gonna support what we have in the land use plan. Which is really what we're trying to create here, we're really trying to create that vision and that
Yeah,
guidance,
it would
right?
have to be rezoned when it is purchased by
So it's in there.
a
Does that
developer.
happen in a lot
It
of
would have to be.
So it's already, so I just
If they
want
wanted
to
to
see
make a change.
If they wanted,
One
yeah,
thing we
if they
have in
wanted
our
to
current
create
land
a,
use plan is that.
where there are
If they wanted to create
Residential on second and third
It's,
floor,
it's,
there's a lot of development.
when you,
Especially
if they replace like with like,
residential's what makes
they're
the
not
money.
gonna have to do
It
anything.
keeps the-
Right.
right?
Makes
But
it
if they were trying to
affordable.
replace a
Not-
single family with a
Exactly.
five-story
Yeah.
apartment building,
Second,
now they're coming,
floor,
gonna have to come back
you
for
can't
some
do it
type
on
of
first floor. We
zoning.
don't want people living on the boardwalk.
Okay.
Okay, so we're making a
Boardwalk
recommendation,
open to the public.
right, policy.
But you can.
This is the direction we'd like to go, this is the direction we'd like to go. You
I
know,
don't know if y'all still.
we can do it
okay with
as
that.
a big swath.
I mean, I think that could be.
Or we can pick the
what's
most
up
likely
to
areas to
6.
encourage a focus in those areas, that would be the only reason why I can think of we'd want to do it, like if we wanted to,
Might actually happen
if we wanted to really
That's up to
encourage it
y'all.
to happen somewhere.
Yeah.
But the only reason, and on the flip side, that I would do the whole swath is because like I said, sometimes you just don't know.
Even though our current fire
So
truck can only
you're
go 6
casting a
stories,
wider net,
if
and
y'all
you're
allow
saying,
somebody to do
guys,
7
it's
or
open.
8, fire
You know,
chief's
Can
gonna
we
ask
have it,
whatever
okay,
he
can
needs
you,
to go to
can
7.
we create the wide
But it's
swath
not
and
like
also
soft
have a focal
land
point, 2 or 3 focal points?
Do we approve?
Yeah, could you
How many
just
stories?
rezone whatever the mixed use, or
Well,
mixed
part
use
of our
waterfront like
discussion
that, we know
is,
Yep.
we talked about this last time, we actually
And then
wrote
the
up
rest of it
there,
just becomes
we
the.
only want 2 stories on
The
the
periphery
front,
that's
west
like,
top.
yeah.
But on the lakefront, if you want something
Yeah.
taller,
That would
just
be
write that
great.
down.
So we are being granular in that regard.
At least on height.
I didn't think we were, okay.
Could even get granular with sound.
Yeah.
If you have that commercial use right here, the residential.
I would, and you're talking about just
Y'all,
what
what
is
do you guys
existing
think
today.
as far as
This
like
is areas where
having
we
this
know there's waterfront,
waterfront
there's not,
There's waterfront,
all the
okay.
way
there's not
up to
residential of any
here.
kind, those two spots.
All right.
Absolutely.
On the waterfront, only
That's
on the
residential
waterfront
currently, right?
lots,
Or it's property.
Yeah.
To that little.
Like that.
up until here.
Zoning wise,
There.
yes.
And then this was
The only
the
problem
next
with this one is
residential.
it's
That's
just
right,
not
I got
a
it.
lot
It's a
of
property
super
Long
dog
distance
areas,
from
right?
the water.
But it is.
You might
So it
just
could
say
be that
lots
this
of
guy's
West
kids
Tahoe.
may, or it
Lots
could
of
turn into
water.
a
We
nature
write it on-
reserve.
I mean, you could certainly. write it
Ideally,
on.
that's
That
about
would
what
be
would be,
perfect.
that would be a
Like
good
if you want to
spot.
say lots on the front on West Catawba, if you wanna continue that village
Just
center,
keep in
that's
mind
the
the
two-story,
property values.
Oh, I see.
and then everything behind that can be.
Yeah.
large.
And unless
Especially on the water.
somebody gave the family money with the intent to turn it into a nature
We can just
preserve,
expand
alongside
existing.
it, that's not
Right.
likely
Right.
gonna
And I
happen.
took, if I owned the property, I would be saying the same thing.
Yeah. All the way back, they're not going
And
anywhere for a
again,
while.
this is just a
Correct.
policy document,
Yeah.
if a developer.
Realistically,
brings
we're looking
something
more
to us
at
and say,
5 years.
okay, I need
Yes.
these two
Right,
lots to make
they're
this
gonna
happen,
come back
and
and
we can
review
evaluate
this
that.
every 5
Case
years.
by case.
Yeah,
Yeah.
case by
The
case.
likelihood that somebody comes in and demolishes that whole thing in the next 5 years, super slim.
This fits really well with the mixed use already though, because it's
Correct.
already.
And there's
Going
a
down
big,
Catawba on both sides.
big docks
Saying
area in here.
Exactly.
Two-story
So-
and flat.
It's a great place for waterfront, something
I think
waterfront.
that building would be perfect, even if they tore that building down and put in 2 restaurants or whatnot.
Yeah, if you wanna
And
keep it just
expanding
like you did the
across,
northern part, just say
right, opening
village center,
this- opening it to this
continue
whole
all the way
code.
down West Catawba.
Is what would make that really attractive.
Yeah.
And with, this would be
Any
your
of those
Province
houses
Park.
Oh, I
out
know.
the way.
Oh, for sure. This is a
That
giant,
is a
I mean,
deal.
do you know how
Yeah.
big of an,
Say
Park.
this,
Yeah,
this,
Park.
this would be such a major
Everything but Robbins Park.
opportunity for someone that the land acquisition cost for these homes probably would be
Alexander
insignificant.
Farm fits that.
That would be my
And
guess.
always remember, we're not talking about just US developers.
Right,
I mean, we field inquiries from China investors.
yeah.
So
buying
we
an
could
entire
create two, that could
condo
be two
complexes.
separate things. So it wasn't one parcel even, that south side of Bluff Point.
I would
It's
open
where
the whole
Les Village Center
thing
for
up.
lots for Catawba, two
All the way
separate.
over here?
Sure, anywhere, I mean, I was thinking at least
Yes.
here, right, but if you wanna do the whole thing, you can, I mean,
I mean, that's,
Fronting West Catawba.
Yeah.
we're going straight down.
Go down to Catawba, and then around, and then up. And you can make it as far up at Bluff Point as you want.
This time.
Where did you say, where's your mama live?
Very end of
She's
Catawba.
up there.
She's at a
Like here.
But all those, like, that's a, Preston, that's the gated community right now.
Because what you have,
Bluffton, but how about Bluffton?
what you end up
Are
with
those
is
million
public
dollars?
access
That's all.
from West Catawba, from parking, for access to
One island.
this, as well as the water access.
Through the water.
Why split it down?
We should make a break.
That's why I was going back and forth, I was like, do I just go
Well-
up against that?
We don't have to, but the thought was, most of the activity kind of work right here in the middle. We could widen it, it doesn't, there's, I guess, there's
A
no
lot more
reason
money on.
not to unless someone,
I think if you're talking more
Town get that money?
Why?
No,
to
no,
have
no,
a
all that money goes to this
transition to
education system.
existing.
yeah.
Education
Neighborhood,
system
if you're
get
not-
fed, because, when I first got here, people were
That's
saying,
the
"Fish on the lake," and now I keep hearing people say, watch out.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Or if you have people-
I don't know,
I don't know.
that's where I think.
Yep.
Or I'd say, I mean,
Okay.
I think probably, personally,
All right, so
I would
there's
say
one.
6 stories, it's probably more than enough on that.
Business?
It's zoned highway commercial conditional district, because that's
Again,
what
case by case.
we're doing back
Yeah.
in
Got
the day.
something.
I'm very familiar with this area here, this would be
But that's-
ideally going back to farm.
Because it started, it started just the legs, yeah.
1991 vintage.
Yeah, it was a grocery
condo
store, everyone thinks that we
complexes.
should get like, high-end grocery
Walking
stores.
through here.
Well, everybody's
Arena.
Trader Joe's.
Or Trader Joe's, Trader Joe's out here, they're always saying that down here too, and up there, but.
I totally agree, because right now, dude,
Individual
recently,
brands.
they made that
I
statement.
know, wouldn't it be great?
98% of it is private.
Just call it Trader
This
Joe's.
one.
And they built this, I mean, like, they
They
put a
were
movie
great.
theater there, there was already one up there. They just
They were
put-
three.
One right here, yeah.
So that thing lasted like 6 months, and they built this, and it's like, it was cracks me up, because I kept the boat like driveway, but the ice cream people can park refrigerated trucks,
Right. Yep.
like,
Retail
it's just,
Real quick,
Just maintaining that.
how did, do we wanna make any other changes down?
Well, I think we
The,
follow the
uh,
same pattern,
water.
just my thought, I think we follow the same pattern we did
Yeah.
above, where we do
One
that
thing I just thought
village,
about too,
whatever,
is
that,
if
yeah,
we're gonna
that
make
same
that
type of,
Something you said last time, I
If
thought
it
about
is like
several
mixed
times
use or someone
since,
does
is
come
what
in,
you love about
should we,
driving
could
in
we,
from the
do we not
4
worry
lane to
about,
the 2 lane into
boat
Cornelius
access as
is
well?
the
Trees
tree
already.
coverage.
Well,
So how do we,
Okay.
how do we
Just thinking like
begin
people
now,
coming in and out,
by
like
creating
ability to park
policy
compared
or
to whatever
whatever it's called, that on both sides of Catawba, all the way,
Yeah,
all
there's
the way
rules
down,
that FERC.
there are large
has
trees
where
that
marinas
create a
can go, where boat
canopy
access can go.
ultimately, years from now.
I think
What does
that's gonna
that
go
have
into
to
that
Single
buffer
family
discussion,
residential
right?
is
Off the
guaranteed that they all
interstate, or does that become a
Yes.
requirement?
But it's
Or-
commercial.
I think that would be a requirement, like
Like
we
ours.
have now.
So is that part of the road? They'll
Yes.
require.
Even though it only touches about a
Yeah,
little
we
bit,
have,
so that's why some of these people are always
landscaping requirements.
It's like it's.
But it's not that easy to get a marina or
There's
multiple boat parking.
Or,
So all those, most of those.
You have to go through a lot of hoops to get that.
For a while, it was more boring
count
too.
on that.
So I don't know what
But it seems like we, if we're moving
Now,
forward,
we've got
we
group
have
coming to the town
something
board on
consistent.
August something,
would
they're gonna
say
talk about all their
on
rules,
either
how
side
they get
of the
marinas,
buffer.
how they manage water levels,
This is
how
what
they,
it's gonna look like,
everything
and
they
then
do.
have
How do we make that
How do we have
in what we're doing?
Disseminate that.
I would just
You know what I mean?
make
There's
it,
nothing to get over
let
there.
us
I know
figure
there's
out
a
the
lot of
best
debate
way
right
to do
now.
it. That's the best way.
Yeah, we'll do
And that way we
My
have.
That's what I was
culture.
thinking, like, if you drive down here, if you
There
do
he is.
Robbins Park on the right, you know, it's got the berm and the fence, like, if you had that going all the way down Catawba, it might not be a quote unquote
This is
park.
a
But it would have a park-like feel as you drive down, and that would be a game changer for this side of the
This is another piece right here. I had my meeting. So
Yeah.
this is all that.
We need to put
Well, I think,
here.
I think he was.
If we need to.
Well, for some reason,
So it's like, the guy that developed it, did this kind of, I like my extended
So this would be smaller.
it's worried because I know posting centers.
Baseball.
And I said, I'm not gonna go yet. because these
Yeah,
are
that's what I'm saying, medium here.
It probably makes sense to
Here.
offer it that way, right?
There's that-
Is to say, single family residential, all the way to the end. I know I told them, I don't really what it is, but I think it's.
So here's my, this is, and I'm not, I should
Cross
probably.
to the big
You can do mixed.
Yeah, 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 okay,
That
just
way,
that.
it brings back the office building.
What
There's
did you
a
do when they
town, right,
moved to
and
Monroe?
it's free just pay.
Their view is how it's allegedly a two-story,
Yeah.
but actually it's more.
Correct.
So, right now, you know, we're talking about the lines, there's not a list right there. I know you do that before you do that.
Yeah, so right here.
You wouldn't want that. We wouldn't show it, that's what we're doing here. We wouldn't show
You've got
that.
that over here.
You cannot
Yes.
let
So you've got this nice park, it's owned by the county, it's leased to the
So
town,
you
there's
have to
tens of millions of
go
dollars.
right, and then
Maybe
there's
that's
a
where
little
we
turn, so you have to either
that
put
as
a
an
baby
offset,
to
Somehow
then.
he needs to say
I
that.
didn't realize
Watch this
this
trade off.
was gonna
If you did
was
a
top
single
Also,
family
residential,
residential,
a year,
you would
right?
expect it will maintain
That's what down at
similar
Barbara's office.
what
It was
level.
gonna
driving
be a
costs. It's gonna be expensive, it ain't gonna be cheap, right? So they're gonna make it look nice, and it's also gonna be a little bit more controlled, like if we put retail of any sort, right? And now we're gonna have additional non-residential traffic coming in and out. You know, there, I'm not sure that's gonna be a
Is
good
it small
fit for some units other than residential, and I don't think you wanna go.
The other thing too,
I mean, it's
So you're fine. It's good to see you.
yeah, absolutely. They might very well probably would, they would have offer it.
What do we call this now?
Single family.
But it's not a large lot, medium lot, or medium, right?
We were just discussing over there, we call it large lot, but what they did is they proposed it over like 200 acres, which included the park.
Yeah.
And then they,
Is it small lot?
just do the term, where they put all the lots in one little area and they leave majority of it open space.
Basically averaged it out over the 200 acres.
So what do we call
Say
it?
small.
I know it's got an R on it. Large
Single.
lot.
Is it single family residential?
Yes, yeah. Oh, wait a minute, you're on the corner?
Yeah.
Yeah, now the corner is actually, small commercial, neighborhood commercial.
But it's small lot residential.
They're
He's
wanting-
saying they're wanting it residential.
We call this one waterfront entertainment. What do we call it?
Well, if there was a vision in nature preserves that that's probably not gonna happen.
So what do we want?
Small, we buy it.
Yeah, I know, right.
What is it now, just single family?
I think it's
Well,
in
it must
family,
be-
it's an R is one,
He's
right?
wanting to put a hotel on this.
Well, he's not gonna get that hotel, it's just not economically feasible,
So you
it
have to
work.
be fun out.
And I think his children know that, they're just politely waiting to the day they can sell it.
Let's make a decision for them.
Yes.
Yeah, so, It's just got a tiny piece of waterfront.
No, it goes across from,
Can we make sure that there's more banks
business.
along this road? That would be
no houses.
really good if we can add like,
Houses along.
you know, they do residential,
That's all.
you know, they do residential per acre, we could do like one bank per acre.
That's where
And
we'll.
what equipment to our left.
I know, right? Oh, it's right.
I'm
over
sure
here.
there's banks up north.
Okay,
that are
got it.
right before you see on the road.
Yeah.
That's how Yak
And it is zoned.
People go down.
Right now it's zoned residential,
Okay.
You know, where the
Oh,
library
right.
is.
but
Yeah.
the
So we-
land use today.
So maybe like this,
Waterfront,
like this.
And there's not a waterfront next to center, there's just a working waterfront.
Yeah, that's, our land use plan's a little different from
Right.
the CMP.
Right,
Except for the
so what we might wanna
Waterfront, right,
do
exactly,
is
all
we
the
might
stuff
wanna
inside
define
of it.
what we
It could be
think
the
these
hybrid,
should.
small and medium.
Right,
So.
so we might come up with
This one,
our
the
own.
enterprise,
And this is-
we call these ones waterfront mixed use.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm seeing as some kind of waterfront mixed use, right? I mean, that's, I don't know exactly what their definition is, but we might.
What if you were a waterfront?
I know, but these, with the right mix, it speeds all of the stuff that's going on
Because it's not
ultimately.
That's the way that I interpret that.
Just apply something different to that.
We also got the one right next to it.
Small.
Whatever they're doing
Small
in
is
there.
that says-
they have to say, I'm not trying to get my house in town, I'm not.
Small lot in this, a single family and two family home.
Farmhouse.
That's not much.
Whatever it is he's doing back there behind his fence, you know?
Small lot.
Still.
There it is, that's pretty good, I mean,
Is there a problem with that?
I mean, whatever you envision all of this, you're all the way around here, would that be one single,
Single
so
family.
all the mix of use?
So they say what size you sell.
What do we call these? We call those what? Village center?
Village center.
Not the multi-channel.
So
There already
Village
are.
Center has in it,
Yeah, we're supposed to be looking for.
We said basically mixed use with two-story maximums.
okay.
Would that be your southern, sorry, can I, that be like your southern Main Street? You know, you've got two entrances to town, you've got Bay Street on one end, and then you've got that's
Because,
your
I mean, there's,
southern
again, if we're
gateway.
talking about walkability, and creating that.
Here's what you got here, mixed
It's almost like
residential.
an urban center, you create two separate urban
Which
centers.
includes single family, townhomes,
That's a
condominiums,
really
apartments.
interesting
Yeah, we do have the dividing diamond, so.
idea. We could have bookends. The bookend,
Mixed residential.
bookend A.
I call it that now. She's got that in my head now, so that's what it is forever. Even hunters are getting their own.
Right.
So, village center or was it
A little
suburban?
more
center?
versatile and allows.
we have a
Center, whatever.
suburban commercial
I
center,
will say though.
which is
that,
bigger
like,
than
to do
probably what we
mixed
want,
residential,
right? Like that's gonna have a
there
big
is
box
some
commercial and stuff like that, so
No,
we don't,
we don't want that.
you don't want that, you got your,
Additional.
There is big box
What?
in there already.
yeah. And it's really, it's probably,
The suburban business
Slow
center?
it down. I should say.
No, that's.
probably more of a mixed use or it's your village
Apartments
center.
and whatnot, then that increases the ability for.
It's gonna be your village center.
I think it's village center, but we had
One thing I
stated
learned
at the
on
village
the
center
options
that there was
is
no
that you can
apartments.
ask the
That's right.
developers
Yeah.
Apartments, but there is
Developments,
townhomes.
schools, whatever you want.
Not that much.
We left
It's like $1 million.
That's
These
gonna be
apartments here in this Red Cliff
No, no, no.
apartment.
It's okay,
Yeah, you don't have
it's
to-
okay, it's okay.
Okay, well, this year,
Like
you're
one,
gonna find these might
like not even
You're saying
allowed.
that you want in the future.
I think it's just village center.
Right now.
I think it's just, I
Yeah.
think it's
I will
just
say,
village.
you put that, you're matching what they just did. So like mine, great minds think alike.
Do I go ahead and raise them?
And I'm just saying the
Let's
policy
just go, let's just go ahead.
that you can
Or
consider.
do I call that residential?
And if we're creating more apartment use, then it's gonna increase traffic anyways.
Because I don't think it's a huge enough property and it's set back where you're not gonna create a live or an office.
Well, I think that we need to keep this more small, large.
You know, it'd be really big back there.
To.
Since it's already doing it.
Yeah, we'll just make it legal.
Living,
And also-
you're already gonna have that increase.
Correct.
So
Potentially
this
increase
is-
in traffic patterns just for people going to potential businesses.
That's the view, so this is Epic Greenfield, it's marked there, it's not just like, could you extend this Epic Green area all the way to the restaurant?
That would be nice,
They
wouldn't it?
would want apartments, they would want people to just walk.
Well, and some of that walk, you know, my guess
I mean,
is
that
that
was.
it's gonna encourage some of this walkability too, right?
Look
You're
all
gonna
around.
have,
Particularly
you got the greenway here, you got the park here.
Money is.
Where
Greenway
does
there.
the, where does the
Money
greenway
that's
come
made
through
is in
this? I
parks.
don't
And
have
those
it
are
in
the
my
green
mind.
line.
The green line,
Okay, but does it,
We
is
need
it
to-
gonna connect?
You can imagine.
At least let's bring you into the park here.
Well, it does connect into John's neighborhood, right up in here, and it
Here,
connects
they
into
would probably argue they
Kirkdale
prefer
Greens
residential.
and into Kirkdale.
But it would be really nice to
I
have
like the idea of
walkability,
putting mixed
flexibility out to
residential,
the
and then
waterfront.
anything over 4
So now, having said that,
residential
these
has to
sidewalks
get
are super good.
individually.
Except on this piece right
Today,
here.
yes.
So if that's the.
That
Right
road is
right
wide.
up to there is no
If we
sidewalk
leave a
there.
broad.
I know this
What's
drive
the
through my
front
bike.
line? 25, did you say on each side?
Oh, no, ask me that again.
When they widen
Widen
West
that out.
Catawba all the
West
way
Tahoe's
out?
gonna have
Well,
13-foot
it's
sidewalk
not.
on each side.
I was on the side, you know, so.
I like where Kelly is going with that.
And I was more, yeah, let us look at each one. It's not,
They're all,
let's look at it.
those little
Developers
buildings
think
are
that's
open
restricted
lots right
going
now.
by
And I don't know if it
right.
would make sense to take advantage of what's already over here. I don't know if maybe it's a question for parks maybe, but
So that's just a mixed use trail, right? So like the way that the necklace connects is through, it's like mixed use trails, which is a sidewalk. But so you can grab that same mixed use trail designation and run all the way down through.
Unless we want to change that.
Which just means a wider sidewalk, right?
Which I think.
That's a 10-foot sidewalk.
3 to 2.
We're doing 13 on West Catawba, on both sides.
So what happens with bicycles?
There will be a second bicycle.
This trail doesn't need an extended
I
across
say the
77.
spandex
I take my
bike
life
ride
into
the
my
bike.
hands.
What's the park
People like
actually
me
like
ride
right
on
here?
13-foot sides.
Like along this edge.
And that will be okay, that people would be allowed to
Yes.
do.
Yes. What's the topography like?
That, I'm talking about adding something about the word greenway to it.
There is.
That would be up to us. The DOT will call it greenway.
What if we took Kelly's
But we
idea?
can
Wouldn't
sign
it be
it
cool
as a
if
greenway
you
trail,
had a
we can
good
say it's
trail?
path number 6, path
So you're
number
kind of
5.
walking and hiking
That's
through
totally
the
up
woods,
to
and you
us.
can have
Just to be able to
at the
connect
waterfront.
East
That's
Catawba all the
essentially
way out to the
what it
lake.
does. So it
and
dumps out.
this
Oh, it
is-
is, so it should be easy for them to
For
do.
instance, we have a bike plan separate from our greenway
And then as
plan.
long as there's someone
And
to
the
get
bike
across
plan
it.
is
Well,
route
so-
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We already have signs all around town. This is
And that
bike
would be
route
perfect,
1.
yeah.
We can sign that, hey, this is Greenway Trail 2, Greenway Trail 3, whatever. We can, and that's up
Would
to
we,
us.
would that go in notes, or can
One
we
of
do
those
it
books.
up here? What
You
we
can
want?
put it here, and then
That
we'll just
one
make
would
sure that it
some
happens.
type of crosswalk or some
We like
ability
that,
to
it's
keep
what-
people
Why don't you put it
safe
up there
crossing
for
the
us?
street.
We're suggesting there's already some pathways here, and if we just follow through here, we can cross here, right into that waterfront.
So the one other,
Sure.
so I'll say one other, I should bring this up. The new, the Robbins Park Phase 3 has, so if you come through here, like there's like an amphitheater right here. You can still, that still works, you just gotta get around this stuff. There's an amphitheater right here, there's like 2 general use fields, there's a basketball court, like all of this.
That's what, that's the
is being
reason why I was
developed
thinking
into
3,
the
because.
Buffer here, all this is being developed into the park.
So Wayne, when you were talking earlier, you're saying this is all zoned for business campus. So like,
It would look a lot like Hyde Park out on
The reason why
Bayfront.
you go taller now is.
Big white
storage.
can we limit the
Storage.
Now, we do not allow storage.
Park it anyways.
We allow flex space, which is like a contractor who has his stuff there. But we do not allow any storage. It clearly says in our code that is a banned use.
Well, that's what we were
Okay.
saying, like max 6 with the first floor.
We haven't allowed that for
Water, but I don't think we necessarily need retail here. I think
That would be real
Uncle
nice.
Bob is making enough of my money.
Right.
Anybody that's coming along here and hiking on this thing can go through the woods to get to a road or.
Correct, and there is a couple little dirt trails. There's a trail that takes you over to the park here.
They're condos.
I think it's probably where the road is right now, or this is designed out.
So if I overlaid the next
Yeah.
phase 3 of that, or I guess I was 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I forgot that, you know, that's great, yes, perfect, perfect.
So are they realistically gonna build phase 3 and 4? Because he's been out of there for a while.
It's in the
It's not gonna be-
CIP.
It's the city's all, so it's in the CIP for 2026.
We just gotta get money and push it up the list.
Yeah, that's that one. that we're
Right,
talking about.
so anything that we don't have designated, are we making any changes or we
The only one we still haven't figured out
That's
is this
got a
one.
marina too.
Okay,
Are we calling it waterfront, or are we calling?
I think Village Center.
just do the DC, yeah, and if someone wants to take advantage of the water, they can, right? I mean, So, with the exception, now this, but down here, we want to eliminate the opportunity for any of the big box type.
Correct. So what,
Does Village Center give them?
but there's
that
already a
option?
big building in there.
Just,
There's
I mean,
already a big spot in there.
well, like if someone did, like,
Sweeping
you're saying, no, we're not gonna encourage Trader Joe's.
And I think it should be.
It's okay, just wanna make sure.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I
would
gotta be
try to
honest,
do
that'd
that.
be a good spot for a Trader Joe's.
I
much
think
more
it
so
would be
than
better
Jeremy
than
grocery store.
I would just put Trader Joe's.
Yeah, but if you're gonna get a category called Trader Joe's,
So
is that all right?
maintaining the same.
Yes.
all
Right.
exactly.
Literally went out of
You
business,
guys,
because the Ingles went across the street.
Up to 6.
So
If
now
you-
that shell is just sitting there empty.
if you want, think about that and either leave it or update it. But if you want big box, we're gonna have to change
I
it.
don't want big box.
Then
but
you
I
got
don't
the
want
one you
to
want.
include big box if it goes in there.
Then
and
you
it's-
don't want that.
right,
I think both of them are very, that's what I mean, like, if that
It's
was
okay.
all road facing, like, road frontage.
Encourage.
Just like out here, like, to have your own little gateway to the town, right?
Yep. Okay, just wanna make
It's
sure.
always good.
Right.
I think these guys are good.
So do we leave it DC or do we change it? If we leave it DC, Trader Joe's can.
Last.
Well, they could.
Last.
We would,
It's
would.
about Christmas and you have to be there.
Trader Joe's
Go to tour the grocery store,
Change
that
the
you
name
go
about
back.
11. Anyone needs to go to
All right.
the
You
restroom.
can't get the double tap across.
You're welcome to go. I
Nice
can
to
check on you. If you have some stomach issues, I'll consider you to.
How'd you guys do?
So everybody laughs.
Okay, yeah, I'll have it.
Easy.
Yeah, all right. Izzy man.
Mike had his kids poison him for
I
us.
know, I'll follow this. We're
We're
gonna all have a
We'll all
real,
agree.
we're gonna all have a real good time in about 20 minutes.
We had her add extra sugar to get us to 6 o'clock.
That's how you got zoned amusement park.
Six Flags. All right, who wants to go first? I think y'all went first last time, right?
Do you want to, you did a good
No,
job
no.
with one.
All right, Susan, you're gonna share with us? Come on, guys, let's gather around, let's see what we got
Susan's
here.
been roped into this.
I know, every time, right?
Well, she does the work, she writes everything.
No, I don't. So what we decided, like all along 73 Catawba until 73, that we wanted to keep the consistency of what we had along from 77 to 2 stories or less Village Center for lots fronting Catawba to 73, not including Robbins Park, and for both sides of Catawba. If you look from, we just kind of use this as a point of reference, from about here, this lot, all the way down to about here, right above Mariner Cove, all the lots fronting the lake, we said mixed-use waterfront for lakefronting lots, no more than 6 stories. The first floor has to be retail. And then the second through up to the other 6 could either be residential or whatever the developer would like to put in there. The lots in between the lakefront lots and the lots fronting Catawba, we said that they would be mixed residential neighborhood. We kind of were going back and forth about the maximum height. Currently, the condos that are in that area are around 3 stories, and so we're saying 3 or 4 stories. That's something kind of to be determined based on what that would look like. Down here, starting at Mariner's Cove, all the way down to right about where 100 Norman is, small lot residential, and then the remainder of this and this would be medium lot residential.
So that you guys would rezone the park is,
The park would remain as it is,
the whole frontage on that road is park.
Yeah, she said excluding.
except, I said minus Robbins Park. So nothing from
Okay.
here to here.
All right, I got you, okay. I was reading through.
So nothing on your property.
No, no, it's not my property,
I know.
it's all parkland.
Yeah, so that's what we put, minus Robbins Park.
And what do you have? This is coming all the way down, same all the way down?
Yep, all the way down to here. To where it hits 73, so from fronting Catawba to 73 minus Robbins Park.
Okay, cool. Did you guys capture notes on, you had some ideas on building height and things of that nature? Because we're gonna come back around to that. So make sure you
I can put it on there,
Or
but
where?
really the only thing that we kind of was just on that mixed residential neighborhood.
Yeah, we said 2-story along Catawba, 6-story on the waterfront, max. And then in the middle, we were back and forth about 3 where it's currently at to 4. But the mixed,
What
the
was
mixed
y'all's?
residential, mixed
What was
residential
y'all, so
allows.
that's pretty tall, right? So
Mixed-
6 stories is much taller than anything that we've really considered there before. So what went into that? Just if you guys could share with us, what went into that building height thinking?
I think mainly what we talked about all along, which, Wayne said, you can make it whatever you
Sure,
want. But
absolutely.
at the end of the day, our fire trucks can only go 6 stories. So that's something to take into consideration, because then that's added budget dollars if we need to then add fire trucks that have to go higher. But also, what we were kind of thinking, and Dennis made a really good point, like using OMB as an example, they could potentially come in here and put like a beer garden or a brewery or something like that, and then, have nightlife and whatnot, and, just to kind of create it more of an entertainment destination.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why we felt like that this could make sense to be
Mhm.
mixed residential, because then it would actually have 3 or 4-story condos, apartments or whatnot, that then these people would walk.
Right.
And say, from my perspective, because originally I was like, I don't know that I like that, and I didn't even say this out loud, but from my perspective, I'm like, well, actually, that does make sense, because originally I was like, well, that's gonna increase traffic, but if these people are actually walking to those places, then it could potentially reduce the traffic flow.
I think it sounds like a really good idea, guys.
And
Good
then
job.
Dennis also mentioned about the widening was gonna increase capacity on that side of Catawba anyway, so we felt like that would alleviate some of that development, push the development that way versus being in downtown.
I hear some similar themes to what our group came up with, so we'll share those. And there will be more conversation about the building heights and things like that. I was just curious as to whether you guys had something in mind for a building that tall, or if you guys were just opening the door to something that
Well,
tall.
we're consciously developing the waterfront as an entertainment area. And so more floors would attract more development as far as entertainment and that sort of thing.
We could do a zip line between buildings, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Like it.
6 months.
Cookies are kicking in. All right.
And it doesn't have to be 6 stories, we were just saying that at the end of the day, up to 6, but if it makes more sense for these to be, 3 or 4 or whatnot, as you start looking at it, just to create, from an aesthetic perspective and all of that.
Yep. Well, for right now, we're not gonna worry too much about it. I love the concept and the thought that you guys put into it, and I was just curious as to kind of what, where y'all were, so I could understand it. But I appreciate it. That's a really good job. Awesome. Thank you, guys. All right, we had some similar things over here, right? John? Come on. You got it. I mean, there's some.
We started originally talking about, can we just turn this whole thing into a waterfront district, minus maybe some of this housing? They kind of took really the greenway and the park and just kind of extended everything out this way that made it feel more part of the town. So we talked about it and eventually decided that maybe, well, a decent vision 50 years ago, that there's probably just too many different pieces. Combined with the fact that if you did try to do kind of a whole waterfront district, that if it got developed in pieces instead of at one time, that it was just gonna end up looking like the strip malls on Catawba when you come off the highway. So we kind of targeted 3 areas for waterfront mixed use and waterfront entertainment. So waterfront mixed use would be Vineyard Point, kind of these undeveloped lots over on Bluff Point. And some of these houses in here, I mean, some of them have been rebuilt, but a lot of them are still kind of original-ish or maybe second generation that will probably get torn down at some point. So that was kind of the mixed use. This mixed use already exists, and then use that marina right there as kind of your entertainment district. So really building, instead of just getting one big one, trying to get at least 2. So pretty similar to what you guys talked about at Kings Point. We didn't really get into height or anything, but what we also kind of talked about was this just alley of hodgepodge right here. Is there a way to kind of develop a southern gateway into the town? So, you've got the welcome to Cornelius sign here, but if you drive fast enough, you can't see it. So really, how do you create, as you drive into the big trees off of Main Street, as you're going by Pelican, you know, how do you create that kind of look and feel as you enter Cornelius from the south? So we said, urban center, is that what that is?
Village.
Village center.
Yep.
You know, really talking about lower height, road frontage things that just kind of, you know, again, all this would have to go away, but just kind of creates a nice little gateway into the town like there is up north. And then we talked about that, I don't know, what the farmland, I guess we'll call it back here. You know, was there a way, how do you connect all of this stuff? So like when you were talking about walkability, like, you know, connect this to this village center through what's it?
Preserved open
Preserved
space.
open space. So that kind of just continues the park into here, and then you've got paths that bring you all up into the mixed use, you know, this gets you from Antiquity all the way over here. The whole Emerald Necklace is then connected through that park phase 3 that's supposed to be done, or starting work in 2027. So that was it. That was kind of-
The only other thing we added was the top corner.
Oh, yeah, the single.
Single-
family
Oh, yeah, yeah,
residence.
and that was just to keep with the parkland here, and every place else was to avoid putting the gas station or something next to the park, and it just kind of preserving.
The one last part is we had the Sherwood Forest that's not connected to Cornelius at all, connecting that to the trail so they can get on the trail and feel like they're part of the neighborhoods too.
That was it, that was all, the 13-foot sidewalks are essentially mixed-use trails, so that'll take you all the way, connect all of that all the way down to Blight.
You're gonna need a couple of banks down there too.
Just a couple.
So the one thing I would ask, you know, our current group, after hearing them present and after our original considerations, and thinking of this as a gateway into Cornelius, our southern gateway into Cornelius, would we want to consider opening this up here? So if you came in, someone could look at this whole section, right? Or, you know, it'd be a massive development, of course, it might be over the course of years and years and years, but would you want that continuity and that opportunity to exist on both sides of the, of Catawba? Or would you want to just, and it kind of is, I mean, it's gonna be VC, you know, on Catawba itself, but would you want to open it up on both sides or leave it the way we have it now?
Those condos get built on the road too, or do they all just in the back?
There's a berm.
Those are the new condos, right?
The townhomes.
Townhomes across from Kid's Place, yeah, they're townhomes.
They're
There's
new,
a,
so
there's a berm like what you guys have in front of your neighborhood.
I don't think it, I mean, I think we already have, their townhomes on the other side, right, on the west side. So really, I was just looking at the east side development that will feed
Okay.
all the new waterfront as
it'll be
well.
similar in reality, right? Because it's already, townhomes are part of the waterfront mixed-use zone, right? So it'll be similar, it won't be drastically different, so we're okay with that? Okay, so, the one thing we will need to do as a group, we will have to reconcile the differences at some point. Right?
Well, I
Because
don't think we're that far off.
We're not.
To be honest. I think
We're
it's-
not, but we do need to get it to one map. So if you guys, you know, whichever direction you guys want, to go with that, you know, and we'll have another chance to iterate, right? But we are gonna need to reconcile the differences. I think we're very close in terms of what's gonna end up there, especially considering those are new. But it's a pretty large chunk that's different.
But now, Michael, we have representatives, actually residents here that live close by, so we won't run into a situation like OMB where you put this out and say, here's what we came up with. So you're comfortable that your communities will say, well, we welcome that. We welcome that development right there, right before our community, right alongside of our community. This is something that we want.
But the exciting thing, I think, is that with this being the land use plan, right, we are providing direction, and this is what we are asking for. And it is being built by the residents of Cornelius.
But to
Yeah,
Dennis,
that's
to
my
your
question.
point, and unless somebody comes out in the next 5 years, and let's be realistically honest here, West Catawba is not gonna be done in the next 5 years.
Right.
So the likelihood that we get a lot of developer eyes coming in and wanting to buy out a neighborhood, to tear it down, to build something new, I think is extremely low for this short time frame.
Wayne, what do you think?
Actually, I think Fred's right. Now, what we will have, and the commissioner saw the email today, we have residential developers coming out of the woodwork. They would do it today.
Sure.
On 2 lane. But the non-residential, they're gonna wait till the 4-lane comes.
Correct.
And I think there's resources out there. I mean, we're talking to developers today that would go in and buy out that residential and change it, but they need that capacity on West Catawba.
Correct.
And so I think Fred's right. 3-4 years down the road, you're gonna see a lot of change.
Well, and I also think it gives them, that gives the bigger developers that are building the type of properties we're looking at, they take a little bit more runway to design out and build and make sure they got the right amount of perk testing, the right water, the right electricity, to make sure that what they envision, it's a bit bigger than, I've got 100 half-acre lots.
But having been in the hot seat,
Oh, I
I'm
get you.
suggesting that, so folks in your neighborhood wouldn't come forward with pitchforks and say, hey, I bought a house here,
Yeah, but-
nobody told me that was coming.
Dennis, let's be fair, like, that's not really a fair question, because we will have half of the town against whatever, if we decide not to open it up to water.
Yeah, it's a fair
If we-
question, that's a fair answer.
I think what we will see, to be honest, and sorry, Michael.
Yeah.
Is we're gonna get our fair amount of NIMBYs. We always will get that, and I know you guys feel that pain really, really bad. But I think what we're not gonna get is the folks that are worried about 400 to 500 to 600 new apartments with 1,000 new cars on the road. These are transitory type businesses where people come and go. They don't spend all day, every day there where they've got heavy usage on the roads. And if we sell it right, we're selling a crowd to say, you're coming from Trump National Golf Course, you're coming from Denver, you're not taking a car. You're coming in your boat.
Well, and I actually asked Wayne that question. So the one thing that you do need to know and consider is that we can't say anything as far as like boat slips or any of that
Right.
from a requirement perspective. So we have to look at it from the perspective that we will not have one single boat slip and then have, that's a Duke
That's a
thing.
Duke thing. Yeah, we talked about the Duke issues.
Or a helicopter pad.
Well, I was looking, can we build out over the water? And that's gonna be a problem too.
But they do allow for residential.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as long as you've got enough water frontage,
Mhm.
then they do, but, I mean, because I think that it would be awesome, to your point, like for, Hello Sailor or Port City or any of those, I mean, there are boat slips, but when we talked about it, we can't make it a requirement
Correct.
to have boat slips, or we can't even assume that there would be one
But
single boat
that'd
slip.
be on the business to fight for, to get people to want.
Yeah.
I'm gonna assume like if somebody came in and bought the marina and built a restaurant there, then they'd peel off 10 boat slips.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right, I mean, that's.
Yeah, for sure, but I'm talking about for the land that has nothing on it.
We can't
at
plan
this
on
point
it.
in time.
We can't budget for it. We
Correct.
can't say
Yeah.
it comes with it or whatnot. That's
But it can still be part of the vision.
correct.
Well, and I think that's the point. And what I like is how we've tied some of the walkability into it right from the parks, right? Bringing people right out of the park if they want to end up, right to the main access, to some of the main points, right? These are things that you guys said from day one, in terms of vision. What do we want? We want more lakefront access for the town of Cornelius, right? So if we want it, we have to plan for it, right? And that's what you guys have done, right? And we will have time to come back and say, what does that look like in terms of the details? We all know that that's gonna be real important how this shakes out too, right? So, seems like a good approach.
Yeah, but when, the noise levels go along with land use?
Well, noise levels are not part of land use. Noise levels under state law, it's a separate police ordinance. And it applies the same across the city, or you can apply it the same. We actually have two separate ordinances. We have a subjective ordinance and a decibel ordinance. Now, what our attorney wishes we had is a decibel ordinance set townwide, and we eventually will probably go to that. And basically, as long as they're under the decibels, they're fine. Now, these commissioners will tell you, we struggle with that, because noise does what it wants to do. It goes where it wants to go. I think Fred's heard Boatyard, but then we have people right next to it, I haven't heard a thing.
I hear it sometimes. I don't hear it other times. I see people who it's sensitive to, and I understand that, but I also understand that we are never gonna please 100%.
Never gonna please
We're-
100%.
If we get to 50 or 51, that's a win.
I will say, since we've gone to the decibel ordinance, Boatyard has been under the decibels 90% of the time. But that doesn't mean the noise still doesn't carry and people
Sure.
still don't complain. And we will have that on this side too, just because we're compact. And what's unique about this is you can go to any city. Charlotte still has a problem. And whether you're in Plaza Midwood or whatever, people still complain about the noise. But if you want to be a vibrant city, you've got to have entertainment, you've got to let restaurants do it. And what I've tried to explain to a lot of people, the way that the law is worded, anybody can have an entertainment venue. I have one guy that just beats me up over the approval of Boatyard. And I'm like, you know, you could have a band in your backyard. It's not just because it's Boatyard.
Correct.
A funeral home could have a band. But they just gotta meet the sound or the noise ordinance. And so that's what it's all about, is people meeting the noise ordinance, but then we all, as neighbors, have to understand that noise travels in different ways. When the leaves come off the trees, when the leaves are on the trees, when cloud cover, and we just do the best we can. And our police are phenomenal. They try to listen to people. They've sat in so many people's backyards, and they just bend over backwards to try to be nice, but explain to people, if they're under 85, they're legal. So that's what we do.
When you send out a color of the next quadrant, especially because the colors you use are different necessarily from when we're looking at
We
this.
apologize
Could you,
for
no,
that.
no, that's totally fine. But could you put BC, could you
Yes.
put
We
those,
can do that.
can you
We'll
plug those
label.
in? That would be great, thank you.
And that's just what the computer and map colors come out, so
Totally.
they're a little bit different from what we used
Blame
in 2020 or whatever
Yeah.
year this was.
Easy.
You guys did a really good job knocking all that out today. We'll jump back in 2 weeks. So, David, you're not gonna be, is it
July.
July?
It was July 14th, I believe.
Okay, good. So we'll tack it again in a couple weeks. Wayne, you'll send out some information on buffers, so we can look at it in advance, and then if we have questions, we can bring them into the meeting or shoot them over to Wayne,
Yeah.
so that when we're together, we'll use this time, working together as a team to get some things done. Okay?
And our next meeting is actually June 23rd, so we got 3 weeks in between this and 23rd.
Do you wanna keep these so that we're not, y'all aren't having
We
to print
would
them?
love that. So if any of you want to leave these, we'd be glad to collect them and have them for that.
What happened to the next meeting? Why did we move?
When we did the original doodle poll, we tried to pick dates in the majority. And 9th and 16th, for some reason, were not good on people's calendars, so that's why I went to the 23rd. But all the dates are set all the way through the end of July.
And then when was the July one?
Let's see here.
Mhm.
July is on the 14th.
So it's 3 weeks out.
Are we working on another quadrant next time?
What we'll do is we'll have this one back for you so you can finish it, and we'll go ahead and have the next one available. My suggestion would be to start on the northeast town center at the top.
Let's do that. And let's go, if you can, let's go ahead and get that out. The more these guys have a chance to look at it, even if we don't get to it, if they have questions about it, at least they can bring those questions in, because we're gonna have to hit that northeast quadrant hard. It's gonna be a little bit of a tricky one. And it's gonna take some time. We're gonna have to move, through it. So the more time we have to get familiar with it beforehand, the better.
But do we only have 2 meetings left?
We can extend it.
Can we
as much
extend
as-
to have
yeah.
more?
Right now, we've got July 14th and 28th. I don't think we have anything in August.
What we do to have this completed and wrapped up and presented to the board?
We're on the hook
Honest.
for, someone's gonna get beat up for not being done.
Well, but that's the question. That
Yes,
was the reason.
But look,
Can we,
guys,
you know,
don't worry about it. You guys are doing great. And, I'll take the beating if it comes to that.
So
We're not gonna
to
change
that
what
point,
we're
Wayne,
doing.
can you send out both quadrants? Because
Yes.
I'm a homework guy. When I'm sitting and bored at work, instead of just clicking on my cells
We'll
on my
go ahead
screen,
and
I
get-
like coloring in the charts, just
We'll go
to,
ahead and get the next 2
Get an idea.
quadrants, go ahead and send those out.
that'd be great.
And can you put in what it currently is? I know we can change it to anything, but just for, like, I'm real familiar with all
Well,
that area.
Give a couple blanks and a couple existing.
Yeah,
How
that'd
about
be
that?
awesome.
Well, what I'll do is I'll send you the existing land use
There we
plan
go.
again,
Perfect.
but I want to send you a blank one, Because
Totally.
as we've said all along, we want you to start with a blank slate.
Totally,
Correct.
it's just helpful, it's just really helpful, but it does give us a lot more
And we'll list the
information.
greenways and the parks and those type, and the road projects, and I'll list those out so you'll know those for each
And
one.
plan projects, if you will.
So can we send,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And do you have an idea of what we're covering on July 14th?
If we can get into it, we're gonna move into that northeast quadrant.
that was my question, I'm not gonna be here on the 14th either.
Yeah, I
so
don't
if
want
we
to
can-
miss that.
So maybe we can jump.
We
right
won't
in.
finish it, I'm sure of it.
I really don't want to miss the.
But maybe we could just send an email.
That's her area.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But let's switch and go
Let's do the other
counterclockwise, do the south,
That's
Well,
well,
I'm gonna send you
southeast.
both of them, so you'll have both of them, and we can start wherever you like.
That's fine, we can do that, we'll move it. But that means the pressure will be on us to get that southeast quadrant done that meeting.
Yeah.
Because I know we're gonna need
Yeah,
time on
we'll need-
the northeast quadrant.
Yeah,
And if
definitely
it's
don't
okay,
wanna
Mr.
miss
Chairman,
that.
what I think I'll do also in the next 3 weeks is maybe send out a doodle for, I wanna go ahead and get August and September on your calendar.
That's a good idea.
That'd be great.
That's a good idea.
And so we'll go ahead and schedule that if necessary.
Right.
And then completion is in September?
Well, as the chairman said, we hope it's at the end of August, but if not,
Okay, I missed
Well, so, a couple things. One, we started a little bit later than when it was announced that we were gonna start, just from a scheduling perspective. So we're gonna, the amount of time we're gonna spend on it, or needed to spend on it, did not change, or didn't get shorter, let me put it that way. Now, in addition, we didn't stay exactly to the schedule, right? It took us a little bit longer to get into it, so we did extend. We're probably 1.5 sessions past what we originally scheduled already. If you count on that, to happen again, that'll put us at least 3 sessions, so 3 weeks longer than we thought is what I could anticipate. That
So
would
can we
be.
extend, say, the next session, go an extra 30 minutes?
Again, as long as we're here.
Or
It's
could we
up to
just
you
put
guys.
time constraints on what we're doing? Like, instead of just going until everybody's done, could we just say, let's do one segment? We got 20 minutes to get to the end of this one, just to pace ourselves?
It's
Well,
difficult to do that,
we
once you
can.
start
I mean,
talking.
that's,
then-
we are actually trying to do that now, that's what we did, but we didn't do it. So, but we have to finish it though, right? So we can all try to be better and more mindful of the time, and we will, we're getting better at this, guys. I don't know if you can feel it, but we are getting so much better at this, we're gonna continue to get better at it as time goes. So we are gonna get some efficiencies as far as that goes, but yes, we can be more mindful of it. If you guys want to extend, I'll leave that up to you and to our resources. I will stay as long, as late as you guys want, but
Same with us.
it's up to you. If you find that useful, then maybe we
If you want
do.
to extend that, I have to go, I'm sorry. Hard
You,
stop at
uh,
6, I can do whatever you guys
Well,
want.
thank you for doing that.
Oh,
Yeah.
I will. She doesn't want to see those coming back, so even if you don't want them yourself, take them to someone else that might need them, because I already have 3 more trays of them at home. So someone take them to someone else that
I
will.
will take one.
You really don't want to go to your department, right?
We will maybe send out
Thank you,
a
guys.
private email to everyone. Thank you guys for seeing everyone.
Yeah, just because they're the